So I've been working on this project for an entire year and I'm not even halfway done. So a year ago, I decided to draw every monster in the 5e monster manual. One monster a day posted to my Instagram stories. It was an exercise to make me better at illustrating monsters and also to get me off of the computer back to drawing at least a little bit on paper with pencil and pen. The idea was to be finished within a year, and in fact for this video I went through the monster manual and counted up how many monsters there are, and there's 240 main monsters listed, but then there's also 95 creatures and another 21 NPCs, and if you add those up, you won't believe it, but there are 365 monsters, creatures, and NPCs in the monster manual. I probably should have added up all the monsters at the very beginning of this project, and then I would have realized that if I had done one a day for an entire year, I would be done. But now I'm only halfway through, so is it gonna take another year to finish? I don't know. I'm gonna try and do it a little bit faster than 2 years of work. So in this video, I'm gonna be drawing monsters number 149 and 150, super classic Dungeons and Dragons monsters, the Mimic and the Mind Flayer. So the original rules for this project was to loosen up and try and draw these creatures within 30 minutes or less, and I've pretty much stuck to that. I start with a light pencil sketch and then I ink with my favorite Kuretake brush pen. I'll have a link to that down in the description. And then I do some quick shading with a cool gray number C3 Copic marker. So my biggest inspiration for this project is the monster drawings from the early Dragon Quest games that were drawn by Akira Toriyama. You know, when I close my eyes and imagine fantasy stuff, I imagine a more cartoony, bright, vibrant, I say bright, but I'm illustrating all these monsters in black and white, but a more cartoony, bright, vibrant, fun, whimsical look than the typical painted, realistic, very, very well done artwork that's in all of the D&D books. And you know, my thought is that if I'm redrawing the monster manual, why repeat all that fantastic artwork that's already there? I should try and make something that feels new, but also it feels old, like the old Nintendo Dragon Quest artwork. So throughout this project, I'm trying really hard not to get hung up on the drawing. You know, I keep telling myself that it's okay to make mistakes and have parts of these drawings that I don't love. The important thing is to just keep moving, keep drawing, keep cranking out monsters, because there's a lot of them. And even though I haven't been totally successful sticking with the one monster per day, I still want to finish the project, even if it takes another year. Because, you know, I think at the end of it, I'll have a huge stack of 350 plus monsters, and even though I probably won't love some of the drawings, and then hopefully there'll be a decent amount of monsters that I actually love the way that I drew them. And my goal at the end of all this is to make my own manual of monsters with all the drawings, and then also probably offer them as paper miniatures. I don't know if it's possible, but I have an idea of how to set up a PDF so you can print off only the miniatures you want, but still have this whole huge collection. Now, obviously, there's a long way to go, but right now, that is the final goal. So I'm gonna link to the original video where I drew a Draco Lich and went over the first 50 or so drawings of this project. There should be a card popping up somewhere above me. And the rest of this video, I'll show you the 100 or so drawings that I've done since then and talk a little bit about what I've learned in the process. So the first thing I learned was that it's not easy to make a drawing every day, especially if you're spending 30 minutes on them, or maybe 45 minutes, an hour sometimes. Have any of them taken an hour? I don't know. Some of them have. And honestly, it was going really good at the beginning. I was so psyched on the project, having a lot of fun. There was lots of momentum, but then a few things slowed me down. I mean, really, I got busy with some work. I finished the Dragontown zine, and that was a ton of work. And then I started my Patreon, where I'm making monthly tabletop role-playing game adventures. Then I'm writing, drawing, play testing, editing, laying out, printing, and shipping out all myself. So really, a lot of my headspace for Dungeons and Dragons was going to that and not this everyday monster project. But I'm saying all that and it just sounds like one big excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just being honest with how this whole process has gone. And if I'm being honest, the other thing that really soured my grapes to this whole project was actually reading the monster manual. So I was going into this project fully inspired. I love flipping through these books, and the idea that there's just this hardcover book that you can throw down and there's new ideas on every page is like just the coolest thing to me. But once I got into it, I realized that there are actually a lot of kind of old ideas in this book. And I don't love some of these old ideas. Of course, there is a lot of discussion about Wizards of the Coast and the Dungeons and Dragons team updating some of the problematic material in these older books. When was the Monster Manual published? 2014. So it's been 8 years since this book came out. I don't know, it should be better. The Monster Manual should be better than this, even if it's an 8-year-old book. If you're paying attention to the discourse around this sort of stuff, which I try not to pay too close attention to it, I hope that Wizards of the Coast does better with this stuff. I want them to do better. I would gladly buy a new monster manual if they just fixed a lot of this. Obviously all of the race stuff needs to be fixed. I'm sitting here and I'm reading about hags and other lady characters, and it's just like, what the hell, Wizards? What are you doing? This is stupid. And at this point, I would gladly buy an updated monster manual. Just fix it, print it, let's do this, man. And hopefully, I've heard, there's like the Tome of Beasts stuff. I haven't really looked at those. I've heard MCDM is about to do a Kickstarter for a new monster manual. And, Wizards of the Coast is updating their stuff in a couple years. So maybe all of this stuff is gonna get fixed in some of these other books. But in the meantime, I'm going to envision the hags differently. Hags are supposed to be these scornful, ugly, I'm doing air quotes, ugly witches. And instead of being that, in my games, I will run them as powerful magic sisterhoods, because there are some cool coven mechanic stuff in there that do, they make dangerous potions and they steal dreams. Cool stuff like that, without having all the dumb stuff that makes people feel bad. And I'm just using the hags as an example. There are lots of monsters in the monster manual that need updating. But the cool thing about Dungeons and Dragons, and this has always been true, is that it can be whatever you want. Banshees in your game can be different than how Wizards of the Coast has them written in this book. Okay, rant over. What else have I learned? Well, speaking of ladies, I'm still not good at drawing them. Or hair. I really need to sit down and learn how to draw some hairstyles. But I am getting better at drawing cool claws and, monster hands, because I've had to draw a bunch of those throughout this project. And looking back over these drawings, I think I'm happiest when I lean into the Dragon Quest inspiration and try something a little different than what's in the book. So it's fun to get a little more abstract with these illustrations. Of course, I still want you to be able to recognize the monster, but it doesn't always need to be exactly how it's described in the text or, a redrawn version of the artwork that's already in the book. And I think I'm also having the most fun when I don't fight against the tools. I've kind of forgotten why I originally chose to use this brush pen and the Copic marker, but I've noticed that when I get sketchy and use the thick and thin line of the brush pen and figure out some way of shading with the Copic marker that adds depth or, you know, shows the type of material that the monster is wearing or the monster is made out of, that's when I get excited to keep drawing, and I'm excited to draw another monster the next day. And really, once I get on a roll, I can feel myself getting better at illustrating. You know, maybe not better, but at least more confident. And I can tell that I am really building what I like to call my visual vocabulary. So I think I've talked about this before, but you know, if you're learning how to speak or read, you have to learn words. And then once you learn a bunch of words, then you can start making sentences, and then you can start making paragraphs and so on and so on, right? But it all comes down, you gotta learn the words. So what I mean by visual vocabulary is, you know, I know how to draw hands in certain poses, like I can draw a clenched fist from this angle or an open hand from this angle. But because I'm drawing a bunch of different types of creatures, now I'm learning how to draw hands at different angles and also different types of hands, like claws and all kinds of stuff, expanding my vocabulary of stuff I just know how to draw. So yeah, doing a project like this, it is super daunting to think about drawing 356 drawings, and finding the inspiration kind of coming and going does make it a little more difficult. But flipping through these drawings and seeing all the progress I've made and seeing some drawings that I'm really in love with definitely has me excited to finish this project and make some cool stuff with these drawings. I'm excited to post them on my Instagram stories, but I'm also excited to make a cool book and have a crap ton of paper miniatures. So I also want to encourage you to start a project like this. Maybe not a whole year-long project. And who am I kidding? It's not a year-long project. It's probably a 2-year-long project. Don't do that, especially at the beginning. Start small. Just do a drawing a week or a few drawings a month. Pick something you want to get better at drawing, or anything really. It doesn't have to be drawing. It can be skateboarding or learning to play the piano, whatever it is. Just set a goal, set some parameters like, you know, like the drawing shouldn't take longer than 30 minutes. It should be on this paper with this pen. Here's the list of everything I'm gonna draw. Get those parameters figured out so you don't have to be thinking about what you're gonna make when the time comes to make it. And then once you get going, even if you're like me and you fail at your original goal, once you get going, you'll see the progress you make. You'll gain some confidence. And I promise you'll feel the achievement. Even if you have a stack of stuff that you don't love, there's gonna be a few things in there that you do, and you're gonna have learned a whole lot from the experience. So anyway, hope you enjoyed flipping through these monsters with me. If you want to keep up with the progress of this project, follow me on Instagram. You know, it's not every day, but it's almost every day on my stories. I post a new monster, and sometimes I write little things about what I think about the monster or what makes it cool, that sort of thing. If you'd like to support this channel and also receive monthly one-shot adventures, fully illustrated with maps, and I make zines that I send to you in the mail. If you want that, check out my Patreon. The link is down in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!